Well, French government has announced its decision to return $150 million looted by former Nigerian military leader General Sani Abacha. Reports gathered that the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, during Galali, in a statement on Friday, said President Bola Tinubu commended the European country for the decision. Well, Tinubu, while receiving the Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs of France, Catherine Colonna, applauded the strengthening of bilateral relations between Nigeria and France. Now, this development followed the Nigerian president's visit to Paris after his inauguration. Well, $150 million Abacha loot. At this point, well, we have John Akriele joining us virtually, and we also expect Jide Ojo to join in this conversation, and we most definitely still have with us in the studio Akin Fatunke. Now, let me start with you in the studio. Personally, I don't know if I should hate Abacha or like him, because as it is, he's been giving gifts back. I mean, money taken away from Nigeria years after he's gone, are coming back in trickles, but not just in trickles, in large sums actually. Should we hate him or love him?
Yeah, well, what is it? When sometimes that you go to the bank,
Withdrawal,
and use your card to
at the ATM.
And the
ATM, and then you hear Ketang Badam, Katang Badam. And each time you hear Katang Badam, you first of all thank God, and then you look at it and say, is it legitimate? Is it something that belonged to me? Is it something that I thought was lost and lost forever? Something that my parents and my grandparents lost, and then somebody has found it? Like I know MQ Abiola was trying to talk about repatriation on slavery, and then the thing does Katang Badam. You are going to be happy. But on a more serious note, it tells you that we do not have a system. It tells you that we do not have transparency. It tells you that we are brazen and colluded in the way and manner we do our accounting, our financing, our audits, in more than transparent way. If in 24 years, $5 billion of Abacha loot allegedly has been recovered. I said allegedly because the CBN is not opening its vaults. For a long time, the CBN was not being audited until all the probes that we are beginning to see. And sometime in July 2013, it had to take the order of the High Court of Nigeria to say, publish, the federal government, dating back as far as Yaradua, Jonathan, Obasanjo, and Buhari, and of course, lately taken over by President Buhari. Let's see what we have. We have conflicting numbers. Some say 3.65 has been recovered. Some say it's 5 billion. In a country where you have I studied a part of accounting and big counting, that is difficult to know, for instance, that we are just three in this studio. 1, 2, 3. 2 men and a lady. And Nigeria is not in a position to be able to do that transparently. And I could have made a fib in there. Somebody, by way of control, checks it and say, hey, you didn't see, you haven't counted those, behind the scenes, behind the camera. But that is true for us to be able to produce. I think at the end of the day, it's not only a shame on Nigeria, but it's also a grace that we are able to recover. Don't forget what happened in the Congo Republic. Don't happen what's happening in Cameroon. Don't forget what has happened in our own country, Nigeria, even before Abacha, that Transparency International has said since the onset of 1959, when we started prospecting for oil and we started the whole drilling process to refineries, to marketing, to retail outlets, all shrouded in 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 massive corruption and leakages. So if we are able to get some of those through diplomatic means, yeah, let's thank God. But I say my thanking God that I want God to now do a favor in such a way that we plug such loopholes that such things will never, should never happen again. Finally, I am constrained to now then say we must bring to book all manner of persons, no matter how highly placed, Dan Etete and Les and the Malabu oil deals. We know a lot of these people must naturally be brought to book. Must be brought to book legally so that they can account. Jezani Madueke is still playing some yo-yo in the UK. All of them must come together and own up to the fact that this country needs a breathing space.
Under the Buhari regime, okay, so tell me, what do you make of this 150 million?
That's John, right?
Yeah,
All right, John, welcome to the conversation.
John, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you, Moses, and good morning to you, the beautiful lady. And also good morning to Mr. King. I know Mr. Jide joined us. Good morning, Mr. Jide. Good morning to all of our viewers all over the world. Moses, please, let me make an appeal to you that most of the time, the network in Nigeria is not guaranteed. So I would have loved a case where you give preference to your online guests so that in case network malfunction, the person in the studio can be a fallback option too. All right. That being said, let me pick up from where Mr. Akin stopped. For me, I think it's a shame. It's a shame because this report that we have received, I see it's telling the younger generation that corruption did not start now. It has been so from the beginning. And if we have been recovering loot, from Abacha's loot, Abacha was former head of state in this country. And we keep recovering this loot. Mind you, Moses, where were all these systems, all these governments that are repatriating these funds? Why can't we say, okay, this is all that was looted from your country into our own country, into our system? Why did it take this so long, for them to start returning the money back in trenches and batches? Just like Mr. Akin said, from the days of Obasanjo to the days of Yaradua to the day, they say Abacha is like a godfather who keeps, ATM keeps giving us money. But Moses, one thing that is even more painful to me is just like you are pouring water into a basket. The last money that was recovered during the Buhari administration, was it accounted for? How was that money expended? What impact did it bring to the lives of masses on the street of Lagos, Abuja, Bayelsa, and Kaduna? Who can say that, from the result of this loot that was recovered, we were better economically? Will you say that the price of cup of rice in mature markets got reduced? So what is the effect of this loot that was recovered? Are we not in a case where loot that is recovered is relooted again? And I say this thing, Moses, and I'll keep saying it, until we have a system that hold our public office holders and political appointees accountable. Moses, until we are transparent in all of our dealings as a people and as a government, we will all be running the rat race, running around the circle. And if you like, pray from now till Jesus comes. That will not be the solution. Moses, I've told you on this platform before, go and check countries that are praying and countries that are not praying. Check their GDP, check their economic growth. Check countries that are praying. Check those that are terrorized. You see that those that are praying are the most terrorized. So it's saying to you, I'm not saying the place of prayer is not, but it's saying to you that there are some things that we should use our own common sense to do and not to pray. Moses, somebody is found to have involved himself in corrupt practices and embezzle money. It should be tried, the money should be recovered, and he should be jailed for it. Simple. That does not need prayer. That needs a good legal system, a good legal framework to bring those people to book. Moses, the question is, from the time you've been hearing on headline newspaper, from headlines, that, okay, this person embezzled this amount of money, this person, this one is in this scandal. How many of those ones can you point out to me now that these ones are serving their jail time? Moses, can we get to a time in this country where we can have all of shame in all of the 36 states and even 37 FCT, all of shame? All of shame will be a wall, that will be so big and mighty that the sculpture of those that have embezzled this country's money will be there in that hall of shame. And let it be like a tourist center for people all over the world to come. Even our children yet unborn can go there and go and see all of shame. And anybody who is in that hall of shame will be an iconic figure in terms of how people should behave so that we don't end up in that hall of shame. I think for me, the past, the present, their hands are not well clean. And so even if this $150 million come into our system, Moses, will it enhance our health system? The answer is capital no. Will it increase our economic growth? The answer is capital no.
All right, now
will it reduce our food insecurity and food inflation? The answer is no. And so it's just like you are getting these funds and then it's going through another channel again. Just like Mr. Akin was saying to you, Moses, how come from 1999 we keep having allocation to revamp our refinery? We keep revamping refinery. We keep spending money on those refinery. And the refinery is not producing a barrel of petrol. Moses, questions should be asked. And there are people who are behind these ministries who should answer these questions. There are people who sit on agencies on board. That's okay, we are the one in charge of committee of refinery, committee of petroleum. And you ask this question, how come that this money is expended to repair a refinery? Where did the money go? Was the refinery repaired? Is the refinery working at optimal capacity? These are many more questions to be answered, Moses.
All right, big questions indeed. And the questions keep coming in. Oh, well, John, about the network thing, you see, that's why we want people like you, that Jackpot, to come back so that you bring the experiences that you have over there and fix the network and fix the system in Nigeria.
Moses,
so
I will give it to you virtually, just like I'm doing now. This shows that I'm loyal, I'm patriotic, and that's why you see that despite all odds, I try as much as possible to bring my own quota to the level of Nigeria.
All right,
Moses,
but we need your brains on ground.
You can't find me there. Sorry to say.
We need your brains on ground. All right.
You're having it now. You're having a brain now.
let's have Jide Ojo, who is a development consultant. We hear that he has joined the conversation as well. Welcome on board VOP this morning, Jide Ojo. I like to call him doctor. I just like to add that to it. Welcome to this conversation. Now, do you think there are conditions attached to this $150 million being returned? And if there are conditions, how will this affect Nigeria's economy? Your thoughts now.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians, fellow panelists. I think there are conditions France has attached to this 150 million, just like in previous times, the one from Luxembourg, the one from the Caribbeans, the one from US, the one from UK. I recall that the last time, those repatriating the funds specifically said it will be used to fix the East-West Road, the Second Niger Bridge, and Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That's what we were told. Anyway, I want to believe Malami. But it's not so much about whether there are conditions attached. It's about where lies our patriotism. Where lies our sense of, my brother there in wherever he is, maybe in UK or US, perhaps it's the system, it's Nigeria that happened to him that made him leave the shores of Nigeria. And I've said time and again that the salvation of Nigeria does not lie with the Nigerian military. We are talking of one individual stealing as much as $5 billion. And we had cumulative 29 years of military rule in Nigeria. And military rule, first you suspend the constitution, there are ouster clauses, things that judges cannot even adjudicate on. And so there's culture of impunity. And I've said, no matter how bad our democratic credentials are, it's still better. Just yesterday, Serap, we learned, has taken Tinubu to court over issues of probe of, funds that has been expended on the oil sector.
Well,
you don't do that under the military. They are maximum rulers, whether at the federal or the state level.
So democracy as it is paying off a little bit.
That is one of the beauty of democracy. You can take your governor to court, you can take your president to court, you can ask very penetrating. I started writing in 1990, that's 33 years ago. And I know the world of difference between the private media and publicly owned media. Because anything critical of government will not even be entertained. And the question we should ask again is, Abacha had ministers. Abacha had military administrators. Why are we concentrating on Abacha? Those ministers as well have probed them.
All right, so yes, that's
Who was the central bank governor? Who was the central bank governor when Abacha was head of state? Why has he not been brought to book to come and answer some charges? So the culture of impunity needs to be broken. If you don't break that culture of impunity, whether you have a military regime or democratic regime, it will be same or same. I've asked this question in my column in The Punch. I asked, $25 billion according to the Guardian newspaper editorial a couple of years ago. $25 billion have been spent on turnaround maintenance of our refineries. $25 billion. Yet, we started fuel subsidy under Babangida regime in 1993 or thereabout. So in all of this period, in about 30 years, you have spent over $25 billion to fix the refineries, and yet the refineries are not working. People get promoted, they have salary, they kept the bureaucracy there. How do you want to develop? Everybody is just sharing the national cake. Nobody contemplates, nobody bothers about how it is built. And that's why we are in this shithole that we have found ourselves. It is good, and we should thank the magnanimity of France, of Britain, of US, of Luxembourg, for even deeming it fit, after using our money for over 20 years, to strengthen their own economy. For even deeming it fit to say, come and collect your crumbs. Because what is the value of that $25 million today in the Naira, given the devaluation of our own currency? But it is born out of their own magnanimity that they have even deemed it fit. Because even if you sue them, these are things that you don't even know. They are the one that is even calling you, oh, we have been able to find that your maximum ruler, have this fund lying here. Switzerland, I'm not sure Switzerland have returned any dime. And that is where the bulk of looters hide their loot. Because that system lived or works on banking, and they are recipients of looted funds. And many have died without their even next of kin knowing that they have such huge sums of money in the vault of the Switzerland or Swiss bank. So the question is, when people point accusing fingers at one another as mainly, we are the problem of this country. All of us, particularly the elite, we are waiting patiently in turn for our own time to eat, not time to contribute. Look at the ministers, the current crop of ministers now. People are jubilating. It's our turn to eat. Our local. It's our turn. And when you have this Milocom mentality, not mentality of building the nation, that's when you see appointment into government positions as opportunity to embezzle funds, to eat. So it's a complex cobweb, but we need to appreciate the magnanimity of France, and civil society and media should follow this $150 million. We must ask that question. To what areas are you going to plow these funds? $150 million is significant if you do the exchange. But what about the one we generate internally? How are we spending it? The rising cost of governance, having plethora of aides and ministers that do next to nothing. I've asked the question, what is the rationale behind having each of the legislator being gifted 160 million naira worth of vehicles when there is a monetization policy in place? What is the rationale behind all the billions that was voted in the supplementary budget for procurement of vehicles for the presidency?
All right, as it is today, we're having a lot more questions come up, but we must thank you, Jide Ojo, because I had to give him that time to express himself, because we're made to understand that we dragged him out of the meeting to contribute to this conversation, and now we have to let him go. Well, thank you very much, Jide.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. I really do appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Do have a great week.
Thank you once again.
Cheers.
Well, Jide Ojo is a development consultant. Now, let's come back to our in-house guest, Akin Fatumke. Now, Jide Ojo raised some points there, probing those that were associated with Abacha when he was alive, and also helped in laundering some of this funds. One of those persons is former governor
Bagudu
yes,
Abubakar.
Yes, Bagudu.
Yes.
Abubakar.
Bagudu Atiku.
Now, how are we fighting corruption if we are not probing these individuals and we are focusing on the loot that other countries are generously giving back to us?
Moses, you are just hitting a nail that has already gone deep into the signing. Apparently, you know it. She knows it. Jonah Kerele knows it very well, and he's articulated it. And Mr. Ojo has also drove it home. Does this not tell you that we are governing ourselves? Does it tell you that we are practicing democracy? It comes back to democracy, and I will make a few corrections to some of the statements my learned Mr. Ojo said. No, subsidy did not begin with the IBB regime. Subsidy was deliberately introduced in the 70s. You remember, we have a premium, super, and all that things were going on very well for us. And the Yakubu Gowon regime now then came and said we need to equalize. So I just thought I should just put that. And secondly, go philosophical, Moses. Alexander Pope, in his book Rape of the Lock, spoke about, for forms of government, let fools contend. Whatever is best administered is best. We could have had what we call a totalitarian kind of regime, one that is not democratic. We had one in Rwanda. I am not saying we should go on there, but we have developments. We have in Nigeria Abacha as head of state. Who are the people that were showing him the leeway? Were they not civilians? It therefore means that if these civilians are practicing this our lopsided democracy that we think we are practicing, it will still be money down the drain. And then, specific to your question, Why will you look for Ali Baba amongst 40 thieves to now take a decision that he was going to head your planning and budget and planning? I don't know. Or perhaps you believe that Ali Baba is the head of thieves. He knows the loopholes of how to catch the other thieves. But that is just putting it mildly. He does not send the right signal. And John Akrele was making the point. I made that point from the onset. That look, it therefore means that we are telling the youths that are upcoming that crime and whatever it is that you want to call corruption pays. Corrupt yourself, run away, and then get a slap in the wrist, be appointed a minister, or become the president of the country, or you find yourselves in the Senate. The whole jambalaya, jabu, jubu, jagba, and all that is what fella said is it's like we are all crazy. No. Is there a way out? Yes, there is a way out. I want to look at a half-filled bottle rather than a half-empty, and therefore say to Catherine Colonna, the foreign minister for Europe and foreign affairs, and through her to Macron, thank you very much for this $150 million that is coming. My expectation that we have new sheriffs who are manning our policy and who are manning our monetary, who are also looking at our tax nets, who are supposed to put in a lot of transparency. I agree with Mr. Ojo that it is most unlikely that it's not linked to assets creation, assets regeneration. My hope and belief, and that is where he is developmental. I am more of a realist. I would not say that this kind of funds should now be used to pay salaries and be used to pay palliatives. Let's link it to specific assets. I have innate faith and trust based on past performance that Mr. Cardoso and Mr. Wale Edun should and must not lend themselves to doing a lot of rigmarole. I have said it so many times. Okay. Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu might say he wants to go and then the way of the way of Buhari and stuff like that. No, you stand ramrod and you look at him straight in the face. We are not going to do this, Mr. President. We know you have executive powers. If you want to do it, I'm going to put in my letter of resignation. Look, he's gotten onto that. That is when we are now going to be forcing democratic ideals and practices or not. Thank you, Macron. Thank you for what you are doing. Also, Mr. Ojo was saying that maybe we have not recovered anything from Switzerland. No. We recovered something from Switzerland. Part of the money we recovered from Switzerland ended at Ikoyi, some of the Ikoyi towers. Remember? When they said it's for security and all that kind of stuff, and somebody just sat on it and all that. It tells you that accounting, transparency, accountability, auditing, what you are doing here, Moses Amnesota, and what Mr. Ojo is doing and what Mr. Akrele is also doing, we must put the fire under their feet. For the first time, I like to say, we have a president who says, I want to listen. I can be making a mistake. Let me know I'm making a mistake and I'm prepared to change. Look,
all right, so yes.
We should key into that. Thank you very much.
All right, then.
So, to John, I want to put this out there. Between 1998 to 2020, Nigeria has recovered $3.6 billion.
3.65.
Yes, $65 billion. And it's under the Buhari regime, there's been a lot of monies recovered, yes? So can you provide us any insights into the process of this recovery?
My sister, what you need to understand is that for you to even be notified that there are proceeds or looted funds in their coffers is the fact that some people just determined to say, now it's time for us to release this money. Now, when they release this money, they always give you parameters as to how you spend the money, what at present you want to do. But what they will not do for you is to follow true to make sure that that money was actually expended for what it's meant to be. And that is where we have our Nigerian factor coming to place. Now, the question to ask yourself is this. Don't forget that we have this history of padding that has become a norm in our allo chamber. They call it allo chamber. I don't know what is allo, about the chamber that passed the budget. And so, budget padding is still going on. So this is what happens, my sister. When they pass the bill to you, you add your own, because you know that from the office where that budget is coming from, those people in that office have their own cuts on each and every project, even to the kitchen utensils in the villa. And so when it gets to the House of Assembly, they also have their own. When it gets to the Senate, they have their own. When it gets to the NDAs and agencies, they have their own. When it gets to the permanent secretaries, they have their own. And this is how the thing waters down to the last of the at the cadre. And so you ask yourself, what is it that we really want? If we have spent that kind of amount of money on revamping our refinery, Moses and my dear in the studio, how much is it to construct a new refinery? How long will it take us to construct a new refinery? There is land in Nigeria. Let's start a new refinery and say, okay, in the next 4 years, in the next 8 years, this refinery will be completed, and let's put in allocations to that effect. This refinery that they said is not working, don't be surprised that if this refinery is privatized, it will be more functional than that Dangote refinery. And
anyway,
so something is lacking somewhere.
That you had to mention the refineries. Now, that's a conversation that we will delve into when we go into the second part of the show. We'll talk more about the refineries and what we need to do to make it work. Now, talking about following the money now,
Yeah.
It's right now, it seems it's not enough for us to be aware that monies have been sent in. It's not enough for government to say, okay, this and this and this are areas where the monies will be allocated to. It's not enough. What else should Nigerians do to ensure that government utilizes the monies? Because, I mean, the monies belong to us, the people of Nigeria.
Moses, thank you for that question. Let me start with you. Your councillor in your ward that represents you in your ward, in your local government, that goes to this chamber to say A and nay and approve a budget at the local government level. Do you even know your local government budget? Do you know how much has been allocated for education in local government? Do you know how much is allocated for road and maintenance? Do you know how much is allocated for health in your local government? You don't know because it's not transparent. And this is why we are saying that first, the government, see, Moses, it's a vision. Write it down, make it plain. That's what Christians say, that's what's in the Holy Scripture. Write the vision down, make it plain. Write your budget down. Take it to your websites, share it to people in your locality. Let them have a feel of it. Let's know who are in charge of different agencies. Let's know how much has been released to them. Let's know the project they are doing. Even the senators are representing constituencies. When they get a constituency allowance, how do they spend it? Moses, you will notice that you will hear on the newspaper that there's 200 million for empowerment of youth and women. My dear, go and checkmate how many people have been empowered. You will see construction of 6 blocks of classroom in one village. If you go to that village, not even one block has been bought or laid. And this project, the money is been awarded to them, is being released, but the project is never done. And these people still come back again and they still get re-elected into the chamber. And they say they are honorable members. What is honorable about the attitude? So for us as a people, is that we need to understand. And Moses, this thing now is because they know that it's not the vote of the people that brought them into power. And so when you threaten your senator that you will recall him, he will just laugh at you because he knows that your vote did not bring him in as a senator. And so we must get to a point as a people that we must know that we have a big problem and we must start tackling that problem one by one. So first set of people that should be on their toes is the office of the citizen, Moses. You and I and everybody watching and listening to us all over the world are citizens, and we must contribute our own quota. We must speak out. We must okay. All right? That this is what is happening. This is the amount that has been released. And let's call out these agencies. Let's call out these ministers. Let's call out these directors. Let's call out these permanent secretaries and say, this money is being released to you. And then you must answer to the public. You must tell us, this is how you want to spend the money. First, in the first quarter, we are expending this amount of money. These are the projects we are doing. These are the timeline of those projects. And so people can follow those projects. As you have said that this is what will be done in 3 months. And in 3 months, if that is not done, people can call the right agency. You know, this thing is not cumbersome. It's a straightforward thing. $150 million. We are giving health sector $2 million. Health sector, what are we going to do with $2 million? We are going to build 300 hospitals all across Nigeria.
And we actually see them being built.
And then you can follow each of these projects one by one to make sure that the project is being initiated, the money is released, and the project is concluded. It's as simple as that.
We could go on and on with this conversation because, I mean, the next question on my mind is how well are we using the Freedom of Information Act? How well do we have access to these things? Can you just respond in 60 seconds?
Freedom of Information Act is there. Fiscal Responsibility Act is there. All things that will ensure all what John has said, what Mr. Ojo said earlier, what I have been preaching, they are there. But them all crazy has waved all that aside. You remember, we are talking about Abacha loot. Remember the Ibori loot. When Ibori loot was going to come in, we started fighting. It should go to Delta State, it should go to federal government, it should go to repair, amongst others, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And then eventually, what did we find? I like your question, my dear friend Moses. We found that it went to the PDP in Delta State, and we had nothing to show for it. But we got something to show for it because we know the Delta State governor bankrolled Atiku Abubakar in this past election. My point, therefore, is simple. Results delivery units. Mr. President has said that needs to happen at the federal. We should have it also at the state. And like John is saying, we should have it also at the local government. Yes, it's not going to be as easy as we say, but we must insist.
All right, then.
Moses, why are you talking about this thing on a daily basis? Because you are insisting. So civil organizations and the office of the citizen that John mentioned must always go on. I have faith.
All right, 60
I have
seconds.
faith. Yes. 2 seconds remaining. I have faith in the set of people based on their antecedents that I know. I am talking about the Cardosos of this world. I'm talking about Wale Edun's. I'm serious about what I'm saying. I'm talking about Doris, who is in planning.
All right, let's just
These people
observe,
must not
and see what
must
they do.
not allow these funds that are coming in to go elsewhere. They must be audited. They must be accounted for.
All right, then.
And that's my faith.
All right, then. Thank you very much. And it's
Thank
good to
you.
have faith. It's good to have faith. I would link my faith to yours.
Up next on VOP this morning, Serap sues President Bola Tinubu over failed administration to probe alleged missing funds. Details in a moment.